It's not a business to me in the first place, and I want to make sure that that comes across to people. It really isn't a business to me. I'm living my best life.
That was Paulie G of Paulie G's Logan Square. It's your boy, Idris, and you're listening to the What's Good Dough podcast. Whether it's pizza, business, or life, my guest and I are always talking about ways we can level up. I'm excited to have Paulie on the show with me because he is just a wealth of knowledge. He has a successful restaurant and he's so entertaining. He has a lot of stories to tell about his success, about his failures, about the ups and downs of the restaurant business. And he also gives some incredibly helpful information if you're looking to open up a restaurant. At the time of recording, Paulie has opened up his first restaurant, Paulie G's, a number of slice shops, and he's franchised with Paulie G's Logan Square. So this dude has a lot of experience to share with you and me today. This is an amazing episode, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And remember to always ask, what's good dough?
What's up, everybody? We are back today with a very special guest. I'm excited to have him on the podcast, the one and only Paulie G. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. We have been trying to make this podcast happen for the longest time, and I'm excited to finally just sit down and chat with you. Okay, let's do it. There is one way that I love to start the show. I ask this one question, and there's no right or wrong answer, Paulie. What's good dough?
Good dough is dough that's baked properly.
So bad dough is dough that isn't baked properly then. What's your definition of proper bake?
It depends on the recipe, but in the case of the wood-fired pizza we make, it has to be baked at a very high temperature. When it's not, I could look at it, I can tell that it's not going to taste right.
You know, I think that was one of the reasons why I didn't like Neapolitan pizza at first, is that I noticed that a lot of the places here, there was one in San Francisco specifically, where their oven was just not that hot. And so it was coming out light, it was coming out kind of hard and dense and chewy.
And big bubbles.
So the big bubbles that's what it is?
Yeah, here's my theory. I'm not a scientist.
Sure.
Okay. But I think what happens is, I know that when my oven is rocking at the right temperature, which should be like 1,000 degrees, the dough goes in and it's so hot, it seals up on top right away. And any, oxygen or whatever's trying to push out can't, because it's sealed out so quickly. If the temperature isn't high enough, it has the opportunity to push a bigger bubble to push out before it seals up. And that's my theory. And you're right, it looks pale when it's not right. If you take a look at, pictures of my pies that are cooked, or anyone's that's cooked, at a high temperature with that dough recipe, a Neapolitan-ish recipe, you'll see smaller spots and a less of a contrast.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a lot of people, like, if they don't have a good staff or they don't train, or maybe they're trying to save money, they keep the oven low. And during times where it's not busy and the product suffers. And I'm glad, you have this eye for, hey, keep that oven hot and let's get it rocking.
I do. And and sometimes it's just a matter of, people laying back and not keeping it going. It's not always a matter of money, because the people who, us saving money on wood is not going to affect their bottom line. The pizza makers, what's going to affect their bottom line is the number of people, who come in and, are served our pizza. So,
yeah. So you are known for this Neapolitan-ish pizza, as you said. Can you walk us back a little bit on why pizza? How pizza?
Oh, that's a great question. I love answering it. The answer's always been the same for 12 plus years. I was in the corporate world, really wasn't too good at what I was doing. But I had to do it because when I started, I thought I was going to be good at it. And I made all kinds of financial commitments, like mortgages and having children, and I had to support them. So I kept going and going, and all along the way, I kind of plateaued. I hit the glass, not a geek ceiling. I was in corporate IT, so there's a glass ceiling for people who are not geeks in that world. There are many kinds of glass ceilings, and I was disenchanted, and I was frustrated, and I was thinking about doing other things that I would enjoy, and along the way, I love to entertain. On the weekends, I'd have people come to my home. I cook for them. I'd play music for them. I'd make up playlists. And we'd have great conversations. Um, and I did that a lot. And people started to tell me, "Oh, you should open up a restaurant." And I kept on telling them I had no interest in that. I thought about, "Oh, here's this thing. You're working, every night. You're away from your family, and you have to do all of these things," and it seemed very complicated. And I said, "You don't know what you're talking about." And people say, "Oh, I'd invest in you if you open up a restaurant." But I kept on telling them they didn't know what they're talking about. But finally, when things really weren't working out for me, I had to do something else. Um, I I had a friend who suggested I open up a this franchise that he liked called Le Peep. It was a breakfast and lunch thing, and he was going to help me out. He said that he'd build the place for me, and I just had to pay him 5% of the gross. Seemed like a good idea. Fast forward, I didn't think that was a good idea, but I thought he'd still back me up if I decided I to do something else. And I decided to build a pizza oven at home to prove to myself that I can make pizza. The reason pizza was it's far simpler than a restaurant where you're coordinating, many different types of dishes, entrees that have to be cooked different ways, in addition to having to coordinate appetizers and entrees and desserts. And that emboldened me, because I had, it's a scary thing. I'd be taking a big chance. But when I saw that it was simpler, that enabled me to be willing to take a chance and you know um, put my faith in God and go and go for it. And that's how we wound up with pizza.
I draw so much inspiration from you. I've kind of been at that point too, where I don't want to go further in the career that I've chosen. And I'm wondering what my next step is. And I'm also having the same hesitations. A restaurant seems hard, long hours. Um, I have a mortgage. I have a baby on the way. My time is going to be split between a restaurant and trying to raise a brand new baby in this world. And so, what was the self talk or the family talk that you were having in the household to allow yourself to do something like this?
Well, I knew I had to do something. I became a consultant after 18 years working for basically one company. And I wasn't getting the consulting work that I wanted because I wasn't as good as people who were wired, to be a geek, who are geeks, right?
Mhm.
So I knew I had to do something else. And I just, you know, um, I forgot where I was going on this. Um,
I mean, you had to make a choice, and you knew that this path of pizza wasn't going to
Oh,
be
right.
easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was at a different point than you. My children were, in their teens at that point. It made it a little easier. What I learned, there were two things that helped me immensely. Okay. First one was uh, a multi-level marketing company called Amway. Okay. Um, and the second was my faith in God. Okay. Amway taught me, we became independent distributors, and the structure of it was that if somebody introduces you to the business, they profit from your profit, right? So they have all these conferences. They help you believe in yourself. They help you to show you how to make commitments and how to be successful. All kinds of different methods of doing that, listening to audio tapes, going to conferences, being introduced to other people who are successful at it. And I learned so much that I was able to apply to doing what I'm doing right now, like um, talking to people who are successful doing what I wanted to do, believing in myself, setting goals, um, and and that helped me do that. Okay, I started speaking it into existence. When I decided that I wanted to open up a pizzeria, I started telling people I was opening up a pizzeria. Okay. And I learned that through that. The other thing that I learned, I look back through my life. Now, I believe in God. Okay. But if you ask me to tell you to describe God, I can't. Okay. And the reason I think I can't is because as humans, I don't think we have the capacity to comprehend it and describe God. But I know that there's something more powerful than us. And I believe that that power is not out there, but within all of us and maybe even connected. I look back over my life, and there were times when I asked God for my help, for help. God gave me, wisdom. God gave me strength. And when I had to do this, I said, you know what? I can't be afraid of this. Okay. I have to go ahead and do this. I had to sign a lease on a space, and I was, um, guaranteeing it personally. And I found this space, and I knew it was for me. But it was scary. It was the scariest moment of my life. But I said, you know what? I look back on my life, and there were times when, I asked for God's help, and God gave it to me. I said, God will do it again. I have to, if you keep, one of the things I learned in Amway is keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. Okay. So I had to do that. And so that's what I did. And that's how I was able to walk through that wall of fear. Okay. Walls of fear are paper thin, and there are only good things on the other side. So.
Okay. Let's talk about that personal guarantee. That to me sounds very scary, but what does, like, for the audience who's listening, like, and doesn't know what that means, what is a personal guarantee? And can you talk a little bit more about that initial
Sure.
build out?
Simplistically, let's say you have a lease for 5 years. Okay. You have to pay the rent every month. And if you go out of business, you somehow have to continue getting that rent paid. Okay. At first I thought, well, they're gonna come to me and take the money out of my bank account. But I've come to learn over the years, well, you just have to make sure that the landlord's getting his rent. So you could find somebody else to take the space over. You could sell them the equipment that's in there, and the lease with it. That lease for somebody new who may be opening up a business, it may be very valuable to them, particularly if the terms are good. Unlike my terms, which were not that good, because I found a space that was ideal for me. I saw the moment I saw it, I said, I'm home. And I went and I said, I actually chased the landlord down and said, I want to sign this lease. Okay. That's how much, faith I had in it. And I did it, and nothing was going to stop me. There was, I was just not going to accept, failure. I was just going to make this happen. I didn't want to know about it failing. If somehow it failed, great. But if I don't take the chance to do this, then there's no chance of it being successful. And so I was willing to make that personal guarantee. And it was for 3 years. They said after 3 years, then it goes away. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make this work. So what do I care?
Okay. So you sign this personal guarantee and you're in this beautiful restaurant that you call home.
Well, let me back up. This is important. Before
Please.
that, this is very important. I had to I had to raise money to do this. I had no money. I had bills. That's all I had was bills. Because over the years, we lived in a very affluent town, and I don't know if where we lived mattered at all. But I wanted my children to be raised and have a great experience, and I wanted a great experience too. So we'd go out on all these wonderful vacations, ski trips, and a lot of it wound up on credit cards, and then we would roll the credit cards into a low rate, mortgage on the house. And um, when the time came, I wanted to do this, and nothing was going to stop me. So I put a business plan together. I showed how this would work, and I went out. Being in an affluent town, I knew quite a few people who were affluent because my children played sports, and I knew them through that mostly. And I would go to them with my business plan and tell them what I was looking for investors, and they always asked me the same question. And I hated the question because I didn't have a good answer for them. That question was, what about you? Do you have any skin in the game? Okay. Well, I had no skin in the game. Okay. And I realized eventually that I had to. So I went to my wife and I said, listen, we have to do this. We have to. Let's take out a home equity loan so I could have some that I could use. Um, I I did that. I had a couple of people who invested, and then I kept on finding more investors. Once once I signed that lease and people saw that, this was actually going to happen, all of a sudden people wanted to get on board and help me. It was all friends and family at that point. The most fun I have now is when some of these people who turned me down, even after I had skin in the game, right? Um, Come into my restaurant. I love for them to look around and see what happened and look at my website and see that there are other locations and but I'm very fortunate. I had friends and family who believed in me and wanted to help me. It was very important. I had to have other people believe in me. You got to believe in yourself. And you have to get other people to believe in you. And then I my friends and family put up 75% of the capital for my business. I put up 25. And the way I structured the deal, I learned this from a fellow pizzeria owner, Matthew Palambino from Motorino, if anybody knows who that is. That through this structure that I did, when all was said and done, I own 80% of the business and they own 20. So, but I had to believe I could do that. And taking these chances, taking other people's money, taking a home equity loan that you have to pay off is a great motivator. It's very important. These people believed in me. I had to show them that they made a good decision and I wasn't going to piss away their money. And that made me, drive even harder not to let it fail.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, when you put your own money into the deal, people believe in you. But when you see that other people are putting that money, at least for me, it would motivate me to do my very best because I wouldn't be able to look at them and say, crap, I lost all your money. That would suck. And
it does. It does. It happens. But
it happens.
I didn't let that happen. A lot of things came together for me. I took steps ahead of time. I was a guerrilla marketeer extraordinaire. I used everything in my power. I've never spent a dime on advertising other than, let's see, is it here? No, it's not in my pocket. Pens that have our logo on it. That's the only thing I've ever spent. I just used, social media basically to get the word out there, and I think advertising is a detriment to a business. And,
you think so? Like paid? You're talking about like paid advertisement, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Why do you say
that? Because you're telling people subliminally that you're willing to spend your money to get them to come into your place. Well, if your place is good enough, you don't need to do that. The word will get out. And that's the other thing. People say, well, why don't you have a happy hour, discount this or that. I have never given away or discounted anything to get people to come into my place. But I have given away maybe more pizza and alcohol than anybody else that I know. Okay. But it's always in appreciation for coming in, or being willing to accept the fact that we screwed up your meal. That's the other reason. So.
Wow. Okay. I'm having like, what do you think about like social media influencers and getting them to come eat your pizza?
I have one answer for them. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't, I'd be very glad for you to come in and say nice things about our pizza. I never give away pizza in exchange for promotion. Pizza or money. I tell them, well, I love when I get I can, I have this many followers, this and that. That's great. Come on in. But I never give anything away in exchange for promotion.
Before we continue with the show, I want to give a huge special thank you to our show sponsor, Uni Pizza Ovens. Uni Pizza Ovens is the world's #1 pizza oven company. And if you're trying to make pizza, whether at home or start a business with it, you got to get with Uni. You can light up this portable oven to 950 degrees in just 20 minutes. And guess what? It takes all of the hard work out of building your oven because you don't need to do that anymore. You're listening to Paulie's story, and he actually tells an amazing story of how he built his wood-fired oven to get his start. That was back in the day. You don't got to do that. You can start making pizza today using Uni Pizza Ovens. You can make some amazing pizzas, so fast, so good. I highly recommend you checking them out. I have a special link in the show's description. It's an affiliate link, and if you use it, I swear to you, it'll help so much with this podcast. I appreciate you. If you need to go check out their store to buy ovens, accessories, any of that, use the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for supporting my show sponsors. Now back to the podcast. Okay. How was opening day?
Well, it was it was a mess. We had a friends and family, and I had guys. One of the other things that I did was I found these guys to build out my restaurant. They were very talented. They were young guys, and everybody wanted to go to the places they were building. And it turns out I couldn't find a manager, front of house manager, and they wound up recommending one of their girlfriends to be the front of house manager. This is before we opened, and they were involved whenever they would design a restaurant and build it. At that time, they were actually doing the physical labor as well. They would get involved in it at the beginning to make sure it was successful. Well, he recommended one of his girlfriends be the front of house manager, and then they went and they broke up. Okay, so they volunteered to run the front of the house for the first month or so, and they really they thought a lot of themselves. Okay, an awful lot of themselves. Okay. And I knew that I wanted my friends and family night to be a dry run, and I wanted it to work just like it would run another time. But they thought that they had their front of house stuff all down pat, okay, and I just had to worry about making pizza. I'm the one that needed practice, okay, and and their stuff didn't stink, okay. Well, okay, but my idea was you tell people come back in an hour. The wait's an hour. Let them wait. No, instead, they had everybody come in. I wanted them to just pay for everything. They had everybody come in and pay $20. Now I'm standing there. I'm trying to make pizza, okay, for all of these people all at once. And there's 75 people waiting for, one pizza coming out at a time, okay? And so it was a mess because they just wore me down. I kept on saying, no, we have to do it this way. No, we have to. And they just wouldn't stop. So to this day, I get to say, see, I told you so. Okay. All right. Hopefully they're listening. Okay. So that was a mess. But the word had gotten out. Along the way, I was a pizza enthusiast as well. And I spent a lot of time on a website called Slice, which is all about pizza, run by a guy named Adam Kuban. And he did a lot of said some nice things about us. I invited him out. What I did for 2 years was make pizza at home. I built an oven at home out in New Jersey, and practiced and experimented and used that as well to get the word out about me ahead of time. Okay, that was another way that I would I would advertise without spending any money. And so when we opened, people already knew about me. And Slice was putting things out about me because I was one of them, and they were excited about that. And so it took a while. For the first 5.5 months, due to some of the things the landlord was supposed to do to the building and didn't, we weren't able to get a liquor license. Okay, we weren't able to get a certificate of occupancy as a restaurant. Okay. And for the first 5.5 months, it was very slow. I was making the pizza. I thought that was necessary because I looked at the people who I idolized, people like Mark from Lucale, Dom DeMarco. They were all the ones making the pizza. So I thought that was the winning formula. So I'm standing out there and I'm trying to make the pizza and talk to guests who want to talk to me because I don't know if you noticed, but I like to talk, right? And there are other things, that have to be done, like changing light bulbs that nobody else seemed to know how to do. That if I had to do those things, I had to stop making pizza and slow things down. But we got through that time. But once we were able to start serving alcohol, wine and beer, about 5.5 months in. So finally, everything doubled overnight once we, because people wouldn't come in, not just, because they couldn't get alcohol there. They couldn't bring it in either. So once we started serving alcohol, the place really doubled. And I had to get out from there and stop, making the pizza. So
you have this famous line where if you don't schmooze them, you lose them. And
you schmooze them or you lose them.
And, I totally agree. And I kind of want to spend a little bit of time there because I think it's important. Even though you're right, I see all these famous pizza makers making the pizza themselves. I do think it's important for someone to be like an advocate of your pizza, be an advocate of, explaining, talking to people, making them feel welcome. And I think one thing that you and I have in common is that we love to entertain folks. And so I think that that's why I agree with you about that sentiment so much.
It's important, and I feel bad for people who don't enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy it. I have a curiosity about people. I like to meet people. I like to share my views with them. I like to find out things from them, and I enjoy that. But I know people who don't enjoy it at all, and they use every excuse to get back in front of that oven and make pizza rather than having to talk to their guests. And it's really important. And like I said, I'm very fortunate that I enjoy doing that. And I get to show people that it's all about the pizza too. Um, I love, I have a collection of about 300 pizza hats. I wear a different one every night. Uh, and it serves, a multiple purpose. It shows people that, it's all about the pizza. It's not just about making money. No one's allowed to wear Paulie G stuff in Paulie G's. Okay. Um, on a very rare occasion, I have to break the rules, but very rare. But I want people, I don't tell my staff you have to wear other people's Pizza House, but I want them to have that attitude, and I always will. And the thing that it helps me with is I'll go up to a table and I'll speak with them, and almost invariably they'll say to me, "Oh, you're wearing your competitor's hat." Boom. Okay. I say, we're not competitors. We're all colleagues. Okay. So they get to see that I'm willing to promote somebody else's pizzeria. And that tells them that I feel really secure in what I'm serving, that I'm willing to tell people to go somewhere else. So, so that schmoozing is important in multiple ways.
Okay, real quick follow up. Why don't you want to wear your branded logo? Is that, I mean, other than having the ability to promote other people, is there any other reason there?
That well, promoting other people is most important. Yeah, there's really no other reason. I don't want. First of all, another thing that I always wanted in the restaurant. People ask me when I hire them, how should I dress? I tell them, dress as if you were coming here to eat. Right? I didn't want the. I idolized Roberta's. Okay, and I know when I walked into Roberta's, you couldn't tell unless they had an apron on, you couldn't tell the guests from the staff. And I loved that. It was like one big club, and I wanted that. So I didn't want a wall between the staff and the guests. And once you put on a uniform, if everybody's wearing a Paulie G's hat, or everybody's wearing a Paulie G's shirt, there's a wall there. And I just sensed that. I didn't read about it in a book or anything like that. It's just a sense that I had that I followed up on.
Go a little bit deeper about this wall. Like, what does that wall prevent from happening in your business?
It looks like a business as opposed to um, coming to somebody's establishment who loves to eat and serve pizza. That's I'm not. It's not a business to me in the first place, and I want to make sure that that comes across to people. It really isn't a business to me. I'm living my best life by doing that. I'm doing what I used to do at home. I used to try to figure out how to get people to come to my house for parties and stuff. And if there was an event or something that we had to celebrate, communion, confirmation, baptism, whatever, I'd always, want to cook. But it was difficult to get people. Now I got people lining up, or at least I used to before the pandemic. Now they only line up on the weekend. If you're looking for a table of Paulie G's, you got a better shot during the week, by the way. Okay. But most importantly, it's really not a business to me. And I want that to come across that way. And, it's it's worked well. And you look at reviews that we get so many times, 9 out of 10 times, I'd say, and I'm not exaggerating. People will mention, oh, the owner comes around, the owner's there, comes around and talks to you. People really appreciate that. I never thought about it when I went to places, but they do.
Now, from someone who loves to entertain as well and kind of vibes with everything you're saying, getting people to come over, one thing that I have trouble with still, and I'm still learning, is how to cook and move faster. Because when people come here, there's obviously a bottleneck, and that bottleneck is me. I imagine there is such bottleneck as well when you were opening your restaurant. How did you overcome that?
I hired people who were better than me, and I went out and schmoozed. Okay.
Okay.
And
So
that
have
was
that
it.
in the business plan. Was that in the business plan or what?
No, I thought, I built my place like I based it on Lucala. You go to Lucala, you walk in. He was there making pizza on a marble table with candles. Like he looks like a priest, facing his congregation. I knew it was important to stand there and look out because then you could see everything that's going on while you're making pizza. But that's the way I did that. And but then eventually I realized, you know what? These people are better than me. Let me get out there. And they knew they were better than me because they said, "Yeah, go out and schmooze. We got you covered, right?" They knew I was slowing them down. Okay. Um, so no, it wasn't really in the business plan, but I should have realized it. I should have realized when people said you should open up a restaurant, and it made my head explode thinking of all these things I'd have to do. That I had other people doing it. I never thought about that. But so that discouraged me from opening up a restaurant until finally I walked through that wall of fear, did the pizza thing.
Our second show sponsor is Cordo Olive Oil, and man, oh man, I cannot wait to let you all in on that Cordo Olive Oil secret. The secret, your olive oil likely doesn't taste good. Trust me, if you do the comparison side by side, if you're using Cordo and you're using this old commodity olive oil that you have at your house that's just been sitting there in the closet, there is no comparison. And right now, you better get on Cordo's website and get your special yuzu amazing olive oil and the Calabrian olive oil. The agrumato method is so special. It brings so much flavor into your olive oil, and there's just nothing like it out there. And this year they're doing 2 types of olive oil for the agrumato method, and I am so stoked. I can't wait to show it off on my Instagram and douse all my pizzas with it. You can get your olive oil today using the link in my show notes at Cordo Olive Oil. Whether you're a home baker or you're a professional, you got to level up. You got to level up your olive oil too. Thank you so much for supporting my show sponsors. Now back to the podcast. Okay, so we clearly know where you stand on schmoozing, but let's give some advice to people who are not as outgoing, entertaining, extroverted as you. For those people who just love the art and the craft and find themselves behind the kitchen and find complete satisfaction there, what advice do you give for them to have their own Paulie at the store? Should they hire someone? Should they learn the skill? What are your thoughts?
Open up a to-go only shop.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
We'll
you
work
heard
for
it.
somebody else. Just make pizza. But it's important. Now, that being said, we also have slice shops now, and that's a little different. And again, you don't need to do as much schmoozing here. But if you have a place like that, you really, if you're uncomfortable dealing with people, you have to, find a role that works for you. Do something that makes you happy. If talking to people and doing that makes you unhappy, don't do it because you're not going to be good at it.
100% facts. Let's talk about the slice shop and how many locations do you have now? 1 million?
No,
You have an
stop
empire.
that. No. Well, okay. There's two different types of locations, right? We have wood-fired places in Columbus, Ohio, Baltimore, and Chicago. We also have a slice shop in Chicago that's owned by Derek Tung, who owns Paulie G's Logan Square. But then we have a slice shop in New Orleans that's mine, and we have a slice shop in Philly now that's my son Derek's basically, and me, and then we have the original that's all mine in Greenpoint. Okay, I opened up those because I discovered that you really need to do takeout and delivery, and our Neapolitan-ish pizza does not travel well, and that was the genesis of us opening the slice shop. So I'm very glad I did because for this day and age, it's a better model.
Talk to me more about that. You say, do you advise people to, if they're opening up a Neapolitan shop, not to just open one by itself and have a second style?
At this point, well, that's kind of like a fallback position. I mean, that's what happened in Chicago. In Chicago, it happened kind of right away because Derek Tung wanted to do Detroit style pizza in addition to the Neapolitan. But in Baltimore and in Columbus, they each added a style of pizza later because they needed something else that traveled better. Um, the slice shop model, people think pizza, they think takeout and delivery. You need to be able to provide that to them. I stopped doing it at the wood fired place a long time ago because I just hated what it did to our product. I didn't want to misrepresent us. Um, so the slice shop became a better model. And in my case, yeah, I really enjoyed the idea of creating a classic slice shop that served classic pizza. I'm not looking to do the kind of toppings that we do at the wood fired place on pizza. I'm not looking to be an artisanal um, slice shop. I'm looking to create a classic shop that was, that you'd go to in the '60s and '70s. And I like, I like the way that's worked out. It's kind of like vinyl. Okay. Um, there are people like me, not me, because I don't need to hold any album covers anymore. Okay. I just like the music, but there are a lot of people my age who are nostalgic for, um, holding a vinyl record in their hands again. So, and there are young people who want to know what that experience was like, and they want to. Is that vinyl you have up on the wall there?
No, they're t-shirts, but they kind of look like vinyl, right?
Oh, okay, I didn't want to insult you or anything, but but younger people want to know what that experience was like, right? So our slice shop is exactly the same thing. There are people my age. So wow, that reminds me of the shop I used to go to when I was a kid, and it draws people there. And then there are young people who want to know what those shops were like. So it's just like vinyl in that sense. And the other thing that I didn't talk about at all, maybe you were going to ask me this, but just in case you didn't, I want to throw it in there. The other thing that I do, now it annoys a few people, but I don't care, is we play the music so it can be heard no matter how loud people are talking in the restaurant. I'd much rather have my music playing, first of all, because I love to introduce music to people. I do my best not to have very um, familiar music on my playlist. I have 6,400 songs at the wood fired place, and a lot of it you're not going to hear. Almost all of it, you're not going to hear on classic rock radio or classic R&B radio because I try to stay more. Now in the slice shop, I do the same thing, but it's more pop oriented. So there is a lot of stuff. But the important thing is I play the music loud because subliminally you're telling people we're not just offering pizza here, we're offering you the music as well. Okay, whether they know it or not, that's what I'm telling them. Every once in a while, people, can you make the music lower? And I just, if I knew I was going to die in a day or two, I would tell people, no, I'm keeping the friggin' music as loud as I want, right? But typically, if somebody asks, I'll turn it down for them. But it's annoying to me. So that was another important thing. So going back to the slice shop, again, I my slices are very classic in most cases. We introduced some curveballs, obviously putting Mike's Hot Honey on some of our slices, and we do something that no one ever did when we were younger. We put sesame seeds on the bottom of our squares. So those are the differences.
Cool. Just one quick comment, actually two. First one, shout out Derek Tung from Paulie G Logan Square. He's the reason why we met. So thank you for that. Second, the music thing. I don't know. I've never experienced this myself, but one of the episodes that I had recently with a guy named Chris Phillips from Doe Eyed, he said that he fully believes in what you're saying about music and that the vibe is everything. And one time, his employees tried messing around with the music and it didn't go with the vibe he was in. And like he came into the restaurant, it was dead empty. And then he was like, nope, this isn't the way I want it. Let's change back the music. And then as soon as he changed back the music, people started coming in. Now, I don't know if that's just anecdotal or, coincidental, but he truly believes the vibe is important. And I like what you're saying.
It really is. I'm very fortunate. Have you been to my place in Greenpoint, my wood fired place?
I don't know that I will because I'm trying to get a free pizza and you don't exchange pizza for promote. No, I'm just kidding. No, I haven't.
If you come in, you will get some free pizza.
No, I try to make it a habit to pay for all of my pizzas. But no, I have not had the fortunate experience to try your pizza yet, but I will.
Okay. those guys may have screwed up my friends and family royally, but the best decision of my life, the second best decision of my life, of course, first was asking Mrs. G to marry me. Okay. The second best decision I ever made was to get these guys to build out the restaurant because, again, the music's there. It's more than the pizza. You walk in, that wood fired place is very seductive. Okay. And it's very important. I know that, there's other people out there making pizza the same as ours. Okay. But I'm offering more than that. And that atmosphere that those guys created is very important, and you have to maintain it. It's such a struggle to get people to turn the lights to the right level. I put, Sharpie marks where the dimmer light should be, and they just don't get it. That's why it's important to be there. It really is. Yeah, if you're not there, um, you aren't going to get things right. And even when you're there, sometimes you don't get things right. I wish I had $1 for every time I had to tell somebody the oven's not hot enough. Okay, so there you go.
Wow. Life lessons.
Yeah, and the same thing with the slice shop. That atmosphere. You're providing somebody with a look back into 50, 60 years ago.
Hmm. Do you and Mrs. G split your time between the different shops to be the face?
No, I'm the face. Mrs. G is the engine behind it. For the longest time we struggled. We had some very good employees who worked for us for a long time, but the pandemic sent them on their way and they
Hmm.
didn't come back. But she was working. But now, she left her job and she's able to do some of the administrative things and things working with our staff. That's very important. But she does also come out and people, she talks to people and she loves doing that too. But basically, I spend most of my time at the wood fired place, and the slice shop she can't, but and a slice shop you don't need it as much as I had mentioned earlier. No.
Got it. While we have you on the topic, I am going to be interviewing Mrs. G next, and I want to ask her a similar question. But like, what is, I imagine people listening to this, some of them are going to be married and have families, and I'm definitely in that camp. What is the secret to a successful marriage while owning or pursuing pizza?
Well, Mrs. G loves the pizza and the shops as much as I do. Okay, and she likes being there. Okay, so that's it. And again, it became a way where our friends could come and visit us. My one of my concerns was early on was, oh well, we're not going to see our friends anymore. You're in the restaurant on the weekend, but we found a way to do that. But also, it's an opportunity to have our friends come visit us at the shop. But the fact
Interesting.
that she's a people person like I am, and she enjoys the food like I do, and that really helps.
Does she
And
ever
it
get
gives
tired of?
her also something that's very important to her is her charitable efforts, and this has given her an opportunity to do some of that. Not as much as she'd like to, but she's working to make that grow.
Okay, so make sure that you all see eye to eye on the food. Make sure that you have that social life come to you. Those are great pieces of advice. Anything else?
Yeah, I had a friend um, when I mentioned Amway. I introduced the business to them, and he used to say to me, he's a really smart guy, um, that you could either, your wife can either be the accelerator or the brake. You don't want somebody who's saying, yeah, I told you not to do this or whatever. You want somebody to encourage you, okay, and edify you, say nice things about you, and you need that. You need that, and that's important from your spouse.
Yeah, I agree. You need an accelerator. I do think that my wife is an accelerator. She is the biggest encouragement, but she also reminds me to slow down. So that's kind of why I see the brakes as well. I feel like sometimes, I don't know, I won't say all of my ideas are 100% great. And I feel like maybe she's there as someone who stops me from doing too stupid of a thing. I don't know. What are
Well,
your
that's
thoughts?
good. No one's really been able to do that with me. Okay. They have not been able to. So, and 90% of the time it works. The other 10%, it's not terrible.
Hey, Pizza Pal. I just want to say thank you for listening to the show so far, and thank you for making it all the way here. Before we get on to the end of the show, I want to remind you all to please leave a rating on the podcast. You could do it right now. Just go ahead and click 5 stars if you're listening on Spotify or Apple. It will greatly help the show. I appreciate you so much. And if you're looking to buy an uni or a second uni, the affiliate link helps the show so much. So please use that anytime you're considering a new oven. All right, enjoy the rest of the show. Okay, well, since we're wrapping up here very shortly, what is of those 90% that didn't work, what was the one mistake that you remember most that people should avoid and not try?
Well, I could have spent $10,000 fixing the building so that they could quickly get, quickly get that. That's one thing, those things, get that certificate of occupancy. But there are other things as well that I'm not doing well thinking of off the top of my head.
Well, then let's talk about the $10,000 for the certificate of occupancy. Maybe do a little bit of a deeper dive on that. Like, why didn't you think it was necessary? Where was the oversight? What happened?
Well, the building had 4 sprinkler heads in it. Okay, and we added 2 that I'm not even sure we needed, but we added 2 when we took over the space. We took over a restaurant, which is great. I have great advice for people if they want to open up their own place. That I'd like to get out there before we're done. I know you're wrapping up, but so the building department said the pipe in the street, the water pipe in the street, does not support 6 sprinklers. As a matter of fact, it doesn't support 4 sprinklers. So I spent 6 months trying to prove it. I spent money on lawyers, okay, to try to get the landlord to put the pipe in the street, which was only like, maybe, like I said, $12,000, I think it was, so that we could get the certificate of occupancy. So I fought all this time to get the landlord to step up to the plate. And finally, I went and I did that, and I deducted it from the rent, and he kept on putting it in my rent bill each month for 2.5 years until it just disappeared. Okay, I just should have did it right from the get-go. And that was it. But real advice here. They're here. Well, I can't say that this is a mistake that I made because my slice shop is in a perfect place. I didn't even realize at the time what a perfect place it was. It was across the street from this expo center, which unfortunately is no longer an expo center. It's some kind of ninja gym where about 1/50th of the people who used to go into the place go now, right? But it's also across the street from a playground, right? I didn't realize what a good space it was, but it was. I spent $650,000 opening the place. Okay,
Oh my gosh.
it took 29 months. Okay, and the reason why was because it wasn't a restaurant in the first place, and the landlord, spent 18 months or whatever. Getting it ready to hand over to me, and then I had to spend all this time. My GC walked away from the job because it's like a pyramid scheme. You pay him up front 1/3 of the money, and then he spends that to buy materials for the job he's working on at that time. I didn't realize that I wasn't going to get the keys to the place for them to work on for another 3 or 4 months. So it's a Ponzi scheme, right? Okay, but I spent all of that money, and now I advise people: you can open up a place. Find a place that's a restaurant already. Because when you change a place to a restaurant, you have all kinds of inspections you have to go through. You have all kinds of equipment you have to buy. Okay. You have to, HVAC. I had to buy an HVAC, $25,000. Fire suppression. And, and when you do these things, they have to be inspected by the building department. And it's not always done right. Then they got to go back again. And, it takes forever and it costs a lot of money. If you get a place that's a restaurant already, none of that stuff has to happen. It's just cosmetic changes you have to make. That is one thing. Now, I said, I wouldn't do that. But because I have such a great location and there wasn't another place that was a restaurant already near there. But other than that, I strongly advise people not to build a restaurant from scratch.
Okay, since we can spend a couple of minutes on this. I do want to ask you, because you have all of this experience opening up restaurants, and you said you spent about, you said 200 something thousand or 600 something thousand?
$650,000.
$650,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Compare that to taking over an existing restaurant. How much do restaurants cost when you're taking over versus that 650?
Great question, because I did it twice now. Okay. There's a place first of all, in Chicago, Derek Tung was looking to open up a slice shop. And he found that there's a pizzeria, pizza maker from Naples named Gabriel Panchi. He licensed his process in his name to a group here in the States. And they opened up a place in Chicago, in Wicker Park. Not Wicker Park, I'm sorry. In West Loop, I guess it is. And it did pretty well. They found a space in Wicker Park, right by the train, which I thought was a great spot, but it didn't do very well, and the pandemic knocked them out. Derek found this space, and as it turns out, this landlord, I think they asked the landlords of these places they built to pay for everything, including the equipment. Okay, so Derek got a lease, didn't have to pay anything. A lot of times, you want a restaurant. There's somebody who has the lease already, has equipment, and they try to sell it to you for hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Derek was able to get this for free. Just pay the rent, make a couple of changes, right? He had to change out the oven, and I got wind of it. Now, the landlord there wasn't smart enough to change the locks right away. So these people took out some of the equipment that maybe they weren't entitled to. I'm not sure. I don't, But
That sucks.
I found out that these people also opened up a similar place, brand new, in New Orleans. Okay. All the equipment was there. It was a little bit small. There was no room for a big walk-in or anything. All the equipment was there, and again, we just had to change out the oven and make cosmetic changes. And when all was said and done, it's probably around $250 to do that. If you're really
For
smart,
each
you could do it
restaurant?
for less. Yeah, but you can do it for less. I think it just depends. In Philly, again, the space was 12 years old. It was a beautiful space, just beautiful bones, right? But a lot of the equipment's old, and it's going to wind up breaking. We're going to have to spend money on it. In New Orleans, it's brand new equipment.
Wow.
Things start going after 10 years. So all of this stuff was brand new. So if you could find something like that, a lot of times you have a landlord where the tenant is gone, and the landlord just wants the rent, right? So you don't have to pay key money or anything. There are times when you're looking to find a restaurant. You may be able to find a restaurant where perhaps the owner is looking to get out, and then you could work some kind of deal with them. But sometimes, and particularly during the pandemic, you're able to find a place that the landlord just wants a tenant, and then you go from there.
250 still seems like a lot of money, though. Like, is that because you had to buy ovens, or were you remodeling?
Yeah. The landlord down there wanted a personal guarantee from me, and I am not doing any more personal guarantees, right? So the landlord said, well, how about you give me 6 months security rather than 2? All right. So now you have that much money. It was like $30,000 just on that. I had to upgrade some electrical because we use Pizza Master 3-phase ovens, and we had to do some upgrade work. We didn't have to do nearly as much in Philly, but and that's why Philly costs less actually than New Orleans. So there was some of that, and I'm not sure. The construction work, we did have to, put in new flooring and all new walls. And I'm not sure where it all went, but it went. I had to buy. Actually, I'm leasing the Pizza Master oven, so I'm not sure where all that money went, but it went. It
Okay.
went.
I
Believe
didn't
me, it's
even know
not
you could
that
do
much
that.
money. When
Okay.
you get a brand new restaurant, I mean, I had a brand new Italian dough mixer. It's beautiful. Water filtration system, refrigeration that was all there that I'd have to buy, HVAC that I'd have to buy. It's a good deal.
Okay. Final question before I ask my final question. How much did the first restaurant cost you? The original Paulie G's.
That only cost me around 250, 260 because I got these guys to do this work on the cheap. They were still looking to make a name for themselves in the area. They had opened a couple of places and were highly regarded by young people who I wanted to attract to the restaurant. That was important for me too. I got these guys to design the restaurant, and I thought that they would bring their skinny jean, bearded friends to the restaurant, right? So that was important. But I paid them half in cash and half in equity. Okay, so that helped. That helped save money, right? Um, and I did it on the cheap. I did it on the cheap. You know, I found all kinds of different ways. An electrician wanted $35,000. I found somebody to do it for 10. There was I don't want to get into how they were able to do it, but they did. Okay.
You made it work, Paulie.
I
Oh
made it
my
work.
goodness. Yeah, you
and,
had this.
and I kept on. I thought it was going to be less, and I kept on. Every time I needed more money, I'd go to somebody, else. But at that point, they saw that it was going to happen, so they wanted to get in on it. So it wasn't that hard to attract investors at that point.
Wow. We're gonna have to have another conversation in the future, Paulie, if you're open.
Oh, yeah,
I have so many
absolutely.
more questions for you, but we'll leave the audience wanting more from the one and only Mr. G. Final question for you. What do you want to leave the audience with today?
If you're thinking about opening up your own business, make sure that it's not a business but your life. Do something that you love, because if you do something you love, you will be good at it. Okay, I'm a perfect example of that. Okay, and just do it. Believe in yourself. We all have a power within us. It's God's power. However you want to define God, trust in that power. We all have, as I learned, we all have seeds of greatness in us. You just have to know what to do with those seeds. And
beautiful words.
Walk through those walls of fear. They're paper thin, and there's good stuff on the other side.
Ooh, way to end it, Paulie. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. We have to do it again sometime.
Sounds good. Anytime.